Hello everyone, this is your host, Gemma, bringing health and wellness conversations from North Idaho and across this region. I am so excited to chat with the entrepreneurs, creatives, and believers as we journey together to connect more deeply to ourselves, our earth, and our communities. Cheers to shining bright and supporting local. Welcome to Vibrant Living Conversations, episode 24. I'm your host, Gemma. For today's interview, I am talking with Laura of Jupiter Jane Traveling Cafe. This is honestly my first opportunity to talk with Laura, but I've been following her food truck's awesome vibes and eating her delicious food for a long time now. So welcome, Laura. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. That was lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. So let's dive in. What would you say your elevator description is of what you do and your food truck?
You know, I'd like to think that it's feeding and nourishing the community. I have a lot of fun with the food, and I usually just say food truck, and then I'll explain that it's a bus and that there is seating inside,
Yeah.
which people don't know. Not everybody knows that you can actually come inside and eat. There's a counter and there's a
Oh,
table, sofa inside.
I
So
love
I would
that.
say that
Awesome. There's a whole nother opportunity for me to explore next time I see you then.
absolutely come in. Yes. Please.
Yeah. So I know this could probably take forever, but I know you have like a rich history that's gotten you through multiple restaurants to where you are now. Will you talk a little bit about that as like your highlights and how you've gotten to where you are?
Sure. I'm originally from back east of New Jersey, but I grew up in California. And so I worked in restaurant business in the restaurant industry my whole time there and until I moved here. So I worked in San Francisco and San Jose, Palo Alto. And we moved here. My former husband and I moved here 19 years ago with our son, Nicholas. And we ended up looking at the restaurant industry here at that time, and we ended up getting a bed and breakfast. So we ran the Quaid House bed and breakfast. That's what we did when we first moved here, and K2 Motel across the street. And then we had that venture. We had our daughter Antonella while we were at the Quaid House. And after that, which was a wonderful experience, I loved having the bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
We had a restaurant. We opened the original dish, home cooking. And from there, Gary, we went different directions, and I bought the bus, and he's opened his restaurant, Dish at Dover Bay, which is a fantastic place. And he does that. And I have Jupiter Jane, and I had a bunch of restaurant equipment, and a friend was selling an empty school bus, and I bought it, and I was going to have a taco bus.
I love it. And so I'm curious, did you go to culinary school or like how has your experience of food like changed throughout the years? I mean, I think it's funny because there's the trends in food, and then there's like how we think we should eat to look a certain way, and then there's like the fad diets. And I'm just curious, even with your cooking style, your eating style, how has that evolved over the years?
Well, you know, I've always been the front of the house. I was never in the kitchen all those years. And at the Quaid House, I ended up doing some high teas and, doing the breakfast, which I loved, but it started out where I was very nervous. I really would rather decorate the plates, create the scene.
Yeah.
So I basically am self-taught. And I think one of the things that I am good at is taking whatever ingredients I have and creating something with that. So I had been daydreaming about a taco cart back in the day, and ended up getting the bus and started with the tacos. And that's sort of the main thing that we do, but we do sandwiches and all sorts of other things. My Jupiter Jane gluten-free cookie is a big part of what we do. And that was just realizing that I needed to change my diet when the kids were young and started being gluten-free and realizing that was better for me. And that's where the cookie came in and created that.
I see.
So it really kind of started with the baking aspect of it. And then once that bus was up and rolling, I had to figure out how to do it and how to cook. And I knew that everything should come out, I want it to be consistent. And it was, okay, what am I going to get at the market? And then it started with fish tacos. And then I probably have about 7, 8 tacos on the menu at all times,
Yeah,
which is
right.
sort of fun. So it just really evolved, and I was determined to make it work.
I love this. What I'm wondering, what ahas or did you have along the way that, I mean, probably the gluten thing, where what did you have a bad reaction to it? Or was it you were just like, I know better and I've learned?
No, I could feel it. I had a bad reaction to it, and I realized that had to cut that out of my diet. And so just really started playing around with things. And actually, my children went to the Waldorf school, and they have a Christmas fair, and I would bring my cookies, the gluten-free chocolate chip cookies. And a girlfriend of mine, Melissa, said, you know, we sell those for more money. They're like $1 more at the bake sale. And I had no idea. So that was the first time it was like, oh, they're good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's evolved into, I make the dough, and that's ready to go in grocery stores. So I've gone through all the steps to, it's all
Yeah.
been packaged and all of that. And so that's my next thing.
I love that. So how long has Jupiter Jane been a thing? I actually don't know this.
This is a decade this year.
Congratulations. Oh,
Thank
how amazing. I love
you.
that. That's fun. So how have your passions really shaped Jupiter Jane? Because and how did you come up with the name? Because it's so, for me, I'm like, the way that you've designed it, it's just beautiful. So I'm
Thanks.
curious, yeah, how did you get to?
Well, when we had the restaurant, so at Dish one morning, my girlfriend Elizabeth and I, we were setting up the restaurant for breakfast. She had just come back from Burning Man, and she told me the story about this couple that met. They conceived this baby, and they're actually in Canada. They live in Canada, and they named her Jupiter Jane. Well, I already bought the bus, but it was empty, and I wasn't sure exactly what it was going to be or what I was going to do. And I said, I'm going to name it Jupiter Jane. And that little girl, there's a little girl in Nelson, and the bus is named after her. And I've had her grandmother call. Her father just sent me an email. Somebody was at the bus last year, and they were taking pictures of the name, and they said, oh, I have a little girlfriend my son goes to school with named Jupiter Jane. They said, do you live in Nelson? And she said, yes. He said, this bus is named after her. So that's where the name came in, and it just stuck.
Yeah.
So that's how it all started and was created.
I see. Nice. And it's very like artistic. Do you have an artistic side or?
Well, I was told once years ago that I create images, and I really liked that. I never really thought about it, but my home, the bus, I have way more fun doing the stuff outside. And like, I had so much fun at Hickey Farms with those pumpkins. I've never been so rich with pumpkins. I could just have stayed outside and decorated with those pumpkins.
Yeah.
Month. So I do really feel that's my art, is creating spaces.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I mean, your food is also very creative. And I think I'm kind of the same in how I like to cook is, what do I have and how do I craft out of this? Like that's, especially because food is, I mean, we all need to eat, right? So I can either make it fun or it can just be mundane and boring. And I'm like, well, if I can choose fun, I'm going to choose fun.
Right.
So I feel that way with your food too. It's like the pineapple and the salsas, and there's sauces, and there's like so much depth and just deliciousness to it. And I love that you don't have, I mean, the tacos, sandwiches, but it's not so big that you're overwhelmed. Like you just have so much love and like thought in all of your items. And there's multiple things on the menu that I want to eat over and over again, which I say that I'm a food snob, but there's not many places around here that I feel that way about. I feel like you just put creativity and heart into your food.
You.
I love that so much.
I really appreciate that. I try very hard, and I want to make sure that it comes out the window exactly the way it should come out the window. I grow a bunch of my own flowers. I have a bunch of edible flowers that is another job within itself for my lemonades that we do all our own simple syrups for, and we pick all the berries for, and then I like to, have my flowers on everything. So that is part of, I want people to feel good when they receive it.
Yeah, completely. And it's in the details. I really believe it is. And even the colors, like vibrant living for me too, has like that colorful piece, right? Like I'm not gonna, it needs to have the rainbow, eat the rainbow. That's the way we're supposed to
Right.
do it, right?
Oh, I like that. That's good.
I'm curious, like really getting behind the scenes in the bus, because when you started, you had younger children. I mean, are you always the one back there? Do you have support? How did your kids, how are they part of it? I'm curious about all those fun behind the scenes stories.
Well, it was the actual name is Jupiter Jane's Traveling Cafe. And I intended to travel. And then I realized with small kids, I'm not going anywhere. So I can't go to Love Your Mother for a weekend, it just wasn't really going to work. And so the first year realizing that I like to call it the heavy hitters dinner party that I had, because I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And it was a big bus and it's a lot with just me. So I had a dinner party and a few people came to me and said from that dinner party, Steve Holt being one of them, and John Edwards, who have the Granary, a district where the Evans Brothers is. And they went to the city for me and they created where I was there for 6 years, where Matchwood is, that was my spot. That was my space for 6 years.
Wow.
And that I learned how to do it all. And I was a force when I bought the bus. Anybody who would listen, I'm going to have a taco bus. And I really was a force. And I believe that that determination is why I'm still here. But if it wasn't for the fact that John and Steve did that for me back then, I might not be. I don't know, I don't know what would have happened. So I'm super thankful for them and what they created there for me.
I love that though. What would you say? I'm curious because I'm really in like business development mode right now. Like I've got my podcast and I'm starting life coaching, but that like I have a 2-year-old. So I'm just wondering, obviously in mom mode, you're like, we have to be a force. Like really there's no choice. But sometimes you need the tricks and the tips along the way. So from someone who has those, what would you tell me?
Well, one thing like with the bus, because I was in town, I'd have to go pick up my daughter Antonella and take her to gymnastics, or my son Nicholas, they would have a sport, or they would, music, or I would put on the outside of the bus on a little sign, Mama Taxi, be back in 20 minutes or be back in 20 minutes. And it worked. And the kids both more so now help on the bus a lot more. And I think that it's a lot more fun for them. They work at father's restaurant, they work at Dish, and then they help me out and they work there. And so my son actually is in Europe. He's studying and he's in Europe right now. And he sent me a message last night that he met these beautiful young women, and he sent a picture of the three of them. And he said, "Really, Mama, they love you." I showed them the pictures of the bus. And so it was so sweet. I was like, wow, just because all of a sudden the bus is cool, and it wasn't necessarily always cool with them. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yes, I can imagine that. I just thinking back on all of our relationships with our parents, right? There are ebbs and flows and when we think they're cool and not cool.
Absolutely.
It helps when attractive females tell him that it's cool.
Yeah, no, it was very sweet. That just happened last night, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh, awesome. So let's tap in. I mean, we've talked very high level about your food. Like, yes, there's tacos. What is like one of your favorite dishes, or what's one of the most popular ones? And let's talk a little bit about why people should come track you down and try your food.
Okay. I would say the most popular thing would be, we call them the JJ's Rockin' Tacos. And that is the standard, or chicken tacos. I would say the fish tacos are one of the people will come back to the bus and say, that was a great taco. Those were great tacos. And they're not street tacos. They're really big and they're full. And there's like the fish tacos. It's more of a kale slaw. I always have fresh vegetables. We have the urban hippie. And it's interesting. I'll do one festival or one event, and somebody's ordering the urban hippie all day, and then I'll do another event and no one orders it. So it's kind of interesting what sells where. We have a sandwich, the Latin lady. We do nachos, which at these big events sell really well. My girlfriend Jen and Ben helped me through all these years create the menu. And I'm not a computer person, so I'll go to Bend every season and I'll sit next to her at her little shop in downtown Bend, just a little charm, and she'll do all the typing and we'll do the menu, and she's funny and she does these little taglines, and we almost will make stuff up as we go. We'll sit there and go, well, I think we need this on the menu. And so
fun.
it's just a fun way to create, and it keeps it fresh. So I do change the menu every year.
Love that. Yeah, awesome. Well, and I love that piece of surrounding yourself with other people to support you, but that like you don't have to do it all when you're doing a business, right? And that's the like community piece that I'm sure you found from being able to travel, but then to, just running a business by yourself anyway.
In this community, I'm so fortunate to be here. I'm so thankful that we moved here when, with our small children, and they're really thankful that they grew up here, and they'll say it, that I'm so glad, that we're here and this is where we were raised. I feel like one day, so when the bus opened, I took the stools from my restaurant because we had a little, we had a counter. It was a wine bar, breakfast bar. So I took the stools and I had a friend put the stools in for me, cut them down, put the stools in. And I would tell everybody that would come in the bus, I'm going to have a counter someday. There's going to be a little, my little dish counter. It's going to be there. And I came back to the bus one day, and another friend, my friend Woods, put out a huge stage outside so you could actually step up on the stage and look into the window. And I came to work one morning and there was a counter. Somebody had made the counter, a local man, Chris, made the counter and left it on my front porch. And then another friend installed it for me. So it's just been so many things like that here. It's amazing.
Oh, I love that. But I also believe the energy attracts like energy. So you're obviously putting it out there and attracting it right back to yourself.
Thank you. I try. A big piece for me here are the children. Like I feel really connected with the children in Sandpoint, my own, of course, and then their friends, but then it reaches the other vendors, doing Schweitzer Mountain. I'll pull into Schweitzer, and that's a hard festival to do. The Fall Fest, it's 4 days. It's really a 2-week job, but I'll pull in, and my favorite part is Mandela Pizza and their kids, like, their son holds up a Frisbee because he knows that I'm going to throw the Frisbee, even if I can only throw it for 4 minutes. That is like the highlight of what it is that I do, and all the kids that come on the bus. And at Hickey Farms, I had 2 little girls come in, and they're like, we'd like to organize. I said, organize. They were making lemonades, and then I would run into them at the grocery store right after, and it's just, they're like, we work on the taco bus, we work on Jupiter Jane. So that part I love being able to create that space for the children.
I love that. Yeah. And then it becomes, and I think then you're more than somewhere that people go and eat, right? You are part of the community. They know you as a human being and your kids. And you are, obviously you were at near Evans for 6 years. So now not being there, I've seen you at different events recently, but where do people find you regularly?
Well, last year with the pandemic, I was super fortunate. Once again, John Edwards, who put me in my first spot with Steve Holt, they have Misty Mountain Furniture, and they once again went to the city last year. So I had a permanent space, and I actually was there this year, but I never was there. So my space was still there. I've been so busy with events that by the time I do an event and then take everything apart from that one and set up for the next weekend, I really couldn't be open there because it was just too much. So right now I'm just doing events, and I've been doing events every weekend. So it's been private dinners. I just bought a lemonade cart. I call it La Petite Jane, and it's really a taco cart, lemonade cart. I'll be doing that for the next 2 months out in Hope. They're doing an artist collective at the cafe there in Hope. So I have 2 months to figure out exactly what I'm going to do with this cart. So
I love it
for the winter, and that starts Sunday. So that's exciting. And I've been wanting that. I've been manifesting a taco cart for years. It came in the lemonade cart, which we've been putting outside the back of the bus. And again, the lemonades have taken off, and that's a big, it helps me stay creative to do my own simple syrups and grow the flowers and pick the berries and concentrate on the lemonades and the baking. And so it's not just the bus, which keeps it exciting.
Oh, I bet. What kind of lemonades do you have? I'm curious. It sounds like you've got it's not just lemonade. You've got an array of flavors by the sounds of it.
So one that we do is a pineapple basil. So we'll make the basil simple syrup. We'll get, the fresh basil from the market or the farmer's market or wherever. And we make our own simple syrups. We do a raspberry mint lemonade. And then I just play around. Like, it depends on what's in season, what simple syrup I decide to make. So really playing with that a lot. I've always sold lemonade on the bus, but with the cart, it's sort of changed the game.
Yeah.
And what's fun is when people walk away and there's the flour and there's some raw sugar that is a natural sugar that goes in, and the berries are on top. And I see people walk away and they'll stop and they'll look at it. They'll take a picture, or you just see them smile, and it's like, wow, this is a lemonade.
Yeah.
So that's been a lot.
No, it's totally a work of art. Oh, I love that. I'm curious. You mentioned COVID there, and I know last year specifically when we were all like, okay, can we go in anywhere? What should we be doing? Like, I know I heard across the board that food trucks, they really thrived. So I'm curious. I mean, it sounds like that was your experience, and that's continued with more events. Is that right?
Yes. Once again, the community was great. People that never would have stopped at my bus stopped at the bus. People that, would assume it's this hippie bus. It really isn't. I mean, everybody is welcome. I want the construction worker, and I want everybody.
Yeah.
So that was great because people realized it wasn't really just tacos or just this hippie bus or whatever, everybody has what they think. So that also changed the game, I think, a little bit for me. And really the traveling part, as far as doing birthday parties. I did a 6-year-old's birthday party on the water. It was amazing. We're on the lake here or there, and it's always different. I did a 40th birthday party this year, right before Fall Fest, and just amazing, like to set it up. And then it's catering outside. So they're not, depending on how many people, if it's over a certain amount, I'll do tables outside, and then it's the chafing dishes. And then that's another piece of art that I get to do. And again, I really love, it's even buying the bowls and, and how I'm going to decorate the table is a big part of my fun.
Yeah, the full picture. How fun. This is awesome. I'm curious because you've mentioned a few times like setting up for an event. And I don't think any of us, unless you've been on a food truck or like work in that world, understand like the extent of what that means. Will you talk about that a little bit? Like if you're going, let's talk about like Fall Fest. That's probably more of an extreme one, but you're going up there for 4 days of activities. Like what kind of work are you having to put in like the week leading up to it to, I mean, obviously you're going to buy food, but what else do I just not even know?
In this particular year, I did a 40th birthday party in Hope that Friday. So I moved the bus there Thursday night, set up for that. And that was all outside. People were coming and, more of a catering outside the bus, and then wrapped that up, went home, got the bus ready for Fall Fest. And so that's taking all of that stuff off and then creating what I'm going to do out the window. And I always say Fall Fest is one of it's the best and hardest things of the year. But the community up at Schweitzer is amazing, but it is a lot of work. I mean, I work most of the summer, I work 7 days a week, and it's always something always has to be cleaned, something, it's always something. So, and the fact that I do the cookies and the baking, I also deliver around town. I deliver to the Evans brothers and Schweitzer with my cookies. So that's a whole other job that I have doing that. So I have that plus the bus, plus children and all of these things. But it is a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. So how do you keep yourself balanced, motivated, and inspired?
Well, being able to keep the bus home, I, and this might sound silly, but when it was super hot, I cleaned and worked on the bus in my bathing suit. So you come over, it didn't matter who came over. I was in my bathing suit all summer, and that's how I would clean. That's how I would stock, it goes from the little barn with, all my equipment. And then there's, of course, you're running around to make sure you have your boats and your plates and your coffee cups and, all those things you need that
Right.
have to be stocked, and you have to make sure you have them the day of the event. So I think that's my balance, is really being able to work those off hours from home, to keep the bus at the house, which I did after being at the granary for 6 years. I had 2 years where that's what I did. And just really the event started picking up, and then COVID hit. And then now this was actually my best year in my 10 years. And I
Wow.
think that it's more people are having the food truck at their event, or their wedding, or whatever it is. So I think that that's my balance, is the fact that I listen to the radio, I create my little scene
Yeah.
that keeps me going.
Yeah, you keep, well, and it seems like between keeping yourself inspired with your different recipes and using different flavors, and then, yeah, doing it on your own terms to keep it fun is, I love that, the key to living life, period, right?
And I would call the beach my office. So the fact that we live here, and after I would go swimming, I was already in my bathing suit, so I'm like, all right, swim,
Yes.
and my paperwork, and I would sit at the beach, and that was my office.
Oh,
And
I love
that
that.
too, we're so lucky we live here and that I can do that.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's, yeah, what a gem that we, yeah, get to live up here for sure. Oh, nice. What was I gonna ask you? Oh, your next step. So, I mean, you've been doing so many events this year. You've got the lemonade stand. Are you seeing yourself staying more in the event space, or are you just kind of seeing where the demand pulls you?
Oh, absolutely. We do the fair. So we were at the fair for everything, which I love the fair. That it's just so much fun. And we actually did Bonner's Ferries Fair this year, which
Oh,
was the first time, and that was super fun. So I, as hard as it is to move that bus around and drive that bus, and everything has to come down so
right.
it doesn't fall, right. I'm not driving,
Right.
stuff flies all over the place. So yes, I really enjoy the events. I love meeting the different people. I love at the end of it, you become friends, like there's just so many sweet people. And then they'll come to the bus and be like, hi, and come to the back door and yell hi. And because they've eaten there before, I threw their 40th birthday party, or
Yeah.
that I love. I really enjoy the change, because I get to meet so many people.
I love that. Fun. Yeah. And I mean, we're in a changing world. We've always been in a changing world, but we feel like we've all felt it, of course, more so in the last like 2 years than ever before. So your cookies, though, we will be able to find, you said, at Evans and some
They're
other
at the
places.
Evans Brothers. They sell them at Schweitzer, and there's a few other places, coffee places around town. The Grind sells them, and I do a few other baked goods. And that's nice because especially in the winter time, it's nice to have that piece. And I
Yeah.
was open last winter at Schweitzer, and that was truly the hardest thing I've ever done. I'm closing the bus as we speak. I'm wrapping it up for the winter, and I
Nice.
will use the cart, and I will do private caterings, but the bus, I'm very excited to put her, Jupiter Jane, to sleep for the winter.
Yeah. She gets to take a break. You can take a break from her. You can
Yes,
join again in the spring.
absolutely. Yes. And I'm really fortunate that um just that it even fits where I live. Everybody knows where I live because the bus is in the driveway. So yeah, so we're gonna move that to my boyfriend Casey's place, so it won't even be in our driveway. We could park here, and he'll do a bunch of stuff for it and get it ready for next year. And he's really amazing. He's been helping out for years, like just helping out on Jupiter Jane for these 10 years. And so now he's a lot bigger part of it. So these last 2 years, I actually have a bigger support and somebody that I'm actually doing it with, which feels really good. So
Oh, I bet.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it
what's
really
your
is.
plans for a 10-year celebration? Are you like going to vacation, or do you have any plans?
Right. We're gonna have to do something big. We went to Mexico. Casey and I went to Mexico last year, and that's the first time in, I would say, since my kids were very little, that I've done anything like that. So that was a lot of fun. And I'm just so thankful that I love that 10-year mark. that, and, I started at 42. So physically, it will hopefully keep me strong. But even with that, it's a very physical job. I will take a break and I will celebrate. I'm not exactly sure yet, but we'll do something fun.
I love that. Yes, rightly so. No, 10 years is, yeah, I'm sure the lessons, and I would love to even hear like just the stories from probably all the events and the people that you get to meet. Like yeah, I bet you've got so many just fun memories and yeah,
Absolutely. People
yeah.
are so amazing, and this town is so amazing. And my girlfriends here are such a support system. I mean, I hear so much when I go out from my girlfriends and my friends, we see you everywhere. Like, and it's that validation of, we see how hard you work. And I
Yeah.
see how hard they work. But that really truly is, it's such a big deal for me that I am all over the place, and people do see that and support what I do.
Yeah. No, I love that. Awesome. Oh, well, was there anything else that you wanted to add or mention?
I feel like I said a lot.
I know I love hearing, like I mentioned before, I'm like, my reason for starting this podcast is because I've eaten your delicious food so many times, but how often do you actually get to like learn about what makes you tick and what your passion is and why you choose to work so hard over and over again? And obviously it's because you love it.
I really do. And, no one sees me typically in the bus. I'm sort of hidden away. And a lot of people will say, well, were you there that day? I'm like, oh, I'm always there. Yeah, I'm sure I drove the bus there and I'm always there. So doing something like this is fun because I don't really, when I'm at events, my head is down most of the time. And I get out of the bus and I'll decorate with pumpkins and
Yeah.
that, because that is my fun. Yeah, it's just been a whirlwind, and I'm just so thankful to still be here.
Yeah, no, and yeah, you're obviously an icon in the community, which is a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Yes,
Nice.
awesome. Well, first of all, people can find you. You've got your website. People want to check out your menu and read your story. And then, are you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram and you can find me on Facebook. I think the best way when people get in touch with me to do an event, it's typically email. I really like a phone call. Like,
Yes.
rather talk to you on the phone than
Yeah.
email back and forth.
I
So
love that. Yes. Yeah. Give like, let's have the talk time for sure. Okay. And I'll put all of that in the show notes so everybody can find it. Yes, for sure. And then I always like to end with a question in the vibrant living realm of glowing from the inside out. Are there 3 or so people locally in your community that really have inspired you along the way? And you've mentioned a couple, but I'll let you re-emphasize if you want or mention some new ones.
sure. Again, my girlfriends are amazing, and there's so many of them that, it'd be impossible to say, but that's such an amazing support for me. I would say the Evans brothers. They moved here a little after us, their families, and, they still have a smile on their face. They have this vision, and I'm so proud of them and what they've achieved here. So I love seeing them grow, and I always feel like I'm just, I'm there for part of it. And it was the Evans brothers that started selling my cookies first,
Oh, I love that.
when I was at the granary. So I really appreciate them and love them and their families. And
Yeah.
so I love what they've done. Also, there's so many people in this town with the restaurants and having to move forward, and that their doors are still open, and that they're still, we're all still trying to support each other and move forward. I will say Bruno, who has the Klondyke, he is one of my favorite people here. And he was there he's at every fair. We were at the Sandpoint festivals together. We're always neighbors. And he shows up every event, every day, with a hug and a kiss and a smile at the end. And let's have a great day. And it keeps me solid, because I'll start complaining. I have something. It's like, okay, you're right. I've got to be like Bruno. So he's definitely another person that inspires me.
I love
And,
that.
really just, again, my girlfriends, there's so many of them. And I watch, my girlfriends, I call them the Amy's, and, massage therapists, and Neiman's, the flower store, and there's just so many fauches that have, I started at the farmers market. So I had the bus and I did the farmers market. So that whole farmers market community,
Yeah.
I love it. That's a tough thing to do the market and to set up that early and the breakdown. And there's so much that goes into it. So
Yeah.
and I'm not singling anybody out, but I really just love that whole experience and environment to be in. So
Yeah.
I will add my children, Nicholas and Antonella, they're amazing. And we're so blessed and fortunate. And they are amazing in the community and they're hard workers. And to see how hard they work is been just amazing for me to watch how they've started so young and their work ethic and who they've become. So they're also a huge inspiration for me.
They've got a great example by the looks of it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're really blessed to have those kids. So they're amazing.
Yeah, no. Well, this was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for being willing to come and chat with me and share your story.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining Laura and me today. I love that you tuned in to hear the stories behind this beautiful, passionate, and contagious soul. Without ever meeting her before today, her food has radiated to me her vibrancy, and this conversation echoed that sentiment from her humble, creative, and driven demeanor. I can only hope that you are sparked by her beautiful approach to life. As I continue this journey of discovery and holistic living, I hope you find me as I get to know more awesome, inspiring people in this Inland West region. You can find my daily life on Insta at Vibrant Living with Gemma, my coaching at gemmaputty.com, or the podcast is linked to both of those and can also be found on Insta at Vibrant Living Conversations. Please feel free to share, like, and let me know who you'd like to hear in the future. Sending all the love, light, and vibrancy. Till next time.